The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the small town where time moved slowly, and love stories often faded before they could bloom. It was in this quiet corner of the world that Shama and Ratti first met, their destinies intertwining in a way neither could have foreseen. Shama was a young man of quiet strength, known for his unwavering determination and kind heart. He worked as a skilled craftsman, shaping wood into intricate designs that told stories of love and longing. Though his hands were rough from labor, his soul was gentle, filled with dreams of a love that would stand the test of time. Ratti, on the other hand, was the daughter of a respected merchant, her life dictated by tradition and duty. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was her spirit that captivated those around her. She longed for freedom beyond the walls of expectation, yearning for a love that was not arranged by convenience but chosen by the heart. Their paths crossed at the annual spring festival, a time when the town came alive with music and laughter. Lanterns swayed in the evening breeze, casting flickering shadows on cobbled streets, while the scent of spiced sweets lingered in the air. Amidst the revelry, Shama saw her, Ratti, dressed in a deep blue veil that shimmered under the lantern light. For a moment, the chaos of the festival dulled, and only she remained in his world. Ratti felt his gaze before she even turned. When their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passed between them. It was not mere attraction but recognition, as though their souls had already met in another lifetime. A small, unexpected moment brought them together. A gust of wind knocked a delicate silk scarf from Ratti's shoulder, sending it drifting toward Shama. Instinctively, he caught it, his fingers brushing against the soft fabric. As he stepped forward to return it, their hands met, briefly, yet enough to ignite something between them. "You should hold on to it more carefully," he murmured, his voice steady yet betraying the slightest tremor. Ratti smiled, a flicker of mischief in her eyes. "Perhaps the wind wanted you to catch it." That night, their conversation unfolded in stolen moments, hidden glances, and words that carried the weight of unspoken promises. They spoke of their dreams, Shama of a life built with love, Ratti of a love untainted by obligation. By the time the festival lights dimmed, something unshakable had taken root between them. It was not yet love, but the promise of it, a fragile thread binding their hearts. Yet, even as they parted, the shadows of reality loomed. Love in their world was never simple. For weeks after the festival, Shama and Ratti's love grew in secret. Their meetings were fleeting, exchanged letters hidden in the folds of fabric at the marketplace, whispered conversations at dusk when the world was too tired to notice. Every moment stolen felt like defiance against fate, a rebellion against the expectations that sought to keep them apart. But love, no matter how deeply felt, is fragile in the face of power. The first whisper of trouble came in the form of a guest at Ratti's home, a man named Amir, the son of an influential landowner. He was wealthier than most in town, with a reputation for getting what he wanted. That evening, as Ratti poured tea for her family, she felt his gaze linger too long, his interest unmistakable. "This is a fine match," her father declared, his voice heavy with certainty. "Amir is a man of means. He can offer you comfort, security." Ratti's hands trembled as she set the teacup down. She wanted to protest, to remind her father that love was not built on coin and status. But tradition was an iron cage, and her voice had always been too soft to shake its bars. When she met Shama that night, her heart ached with the weight of what she could not say. "Amir has asked for my hand," she whispered, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. Shama's jaw tightened, his fingers curling into fists at his sides. "And what did you say?" "I said nothing," she admitted. "I did not agree, but I did not refuse." A storm brewed in his eyes, not of anger, but of something heavier, helplessness. He had no wealth to offer, no influence to wield. All he had was love, and in a world ruled by power, love was not always enough. "We will find a way," he said, though his voice wavered. "Ratti, I will not lose you." But love does not exist in a vacuum. The town was watching, whispering. Amir, sensing Shama's presence in Ratti's heart, did not wait for her answer. He went to her father with an offer too grand to refuse: land, gold, a promise of prosperity. By the week's end, the decision was made. Ratti was to marry Amir. When she met Shama for the last time before her fate was sealed, the weight of betrayal was already settling between them. Not because she had chosen Amir, but because she had never been given a choice at all. Tears lined her lashes as she reached for his hand. "Forgive me," she pleaded. "If I had been born a man, I would have fought for us." Shama did not pull away, but his silence cut deeper than any words could. Their love had been real, but the world had not been kind enough to let it last. The day of Ratti's wedding arrived with a cruel inevitability. The town bustled with preparations. Silk drapes adorned her family's courtyard, fragrant marigolds hung in garlands, and musicians played joyous tunes that mocked the sorrow in her heart. She sat motionless as the women around her whispered blessings, their hands painting intricate henna patterns on her skin. Every stroke felt like a chain tightening around her. Shama did not attend the wedding. He had wandered the outskirts of town, away from the laughter and celebrations, away from the woman who had once promised forever. He had fought, pleaded, even, but in the end, love had been powerless against the weight of expectation. As dusk settled, the wedding procession passed through the streets. Amir sat atop a decorated horse, his expression one of triumph. Ratti, veiled and silent, rode in a palanquin, her heart hammering against her ribs. Somewhere in the crowd, she knew Shama was watching. And he was, hidden in the shadows, unseen yet unwilling to turn away. His fingers dug into his palms, nails biting into skin, but the pain in his chest was far worse. The woman he had once held close was now being carried away from him, not by fate, but by a cruel design of wealth and power. That night, long after the festivities ended and silence settled over the town, Ratti made a desperate choice. Wrapped in a dark shawl, she slipped through the corridors of her new home, each step heavy with the weight of what she had done. The world had given her no choice before, but now she would steal one for herself. Shama found her waiting in the grove where they had once dreamed of a future together. Her face was streaked with tears, her lips trembling as she whispered his name. "I could not let it end like this," she confessed. Shama's heart ached at the sight of her, but something inside him had already begun to wither. "You are his wife now," he said, his voice hollow. "What can you ask of me that time has not already taken?" Ratti flinched as if struck. "I never wanted this. I never stopped loving you." "Love." He let out a bitter laugh. "Love does not survive in cages, Ratti. It wilts. It dies." Tears fell freely down her cheeks. "Then tell me to leave, and I will. But if there is even a piece of you that's still—" "Go," Shama interrupted, stepping back. "Before we turn this love into something we cannot bear to remember." She held his gaze for a long moment, as if memorizing him. Then, with the weight of loss pressing against her chest, she turned and walked away. Shama stood in the darkness, knowing they had not only lost each other, but also the love that had once made the world feel infinite. Time moved forward, but for Shama and Ratti, it never truly passed. It merely lingered, a ghost of what could have been, haunting their separate lives. Shama left the town soon after that night. He did not say goodbye, did not look back. Some said he wandered to distant lands, seeking a life free from the weight of heartbreak. Others believed he simply disappeared into the wilderness, letting sorrow swallow him whole. But the truth was simpler. He left because staying meant watching the woman he loved belong to another. Ratti remained, bound to a marriage that felt more like a sentence than a union. Amir gave her wealth, a home adorned with gold and silk, but he could not give her what she had already given away, her heart. She played the role expected of her, smiling when required, speaking when spoken to, yet inside, she felt like a hollow vessel, carrying only the memories of a love she had lost. Years passed, but Shama's name never left her lips, not even in whispers. She bore her silence as penance, believing it to be the price for the betrayal neither of them had chosen. One evening, when the sky burned with hues of orange and crimson, Ratti returned to the place where it had all begun, the old festival grounds. The town had changed, But the wind still carried the same scent of spiced sweets, the same echoes of laughter from years long gone. She stood beneath the same lantern-lit sky, feeling the weight of nostalgia press against her chest. And then, as if fate had waited for this moment, she saw it, a weathered letter tucked between the wooden beams of an abandoned stall. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded the fragile parchment. The ink had faded, but the words remained. If love was a choice, I would have chosen you 1,000 times over. But love was never ours to decide. If you ever return here, know that I did too. And in another life, perhaps we do not let the world tear us apart. Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the letter to her chest. Shama had been here. He had stood in this very place, leaving behind the only proof that their love had not been forgotten. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to cry, not for what was, but for what would never be. As the lantern swayed in the evening breeze, she closed her eyes and whispered his name into the wind, hoping, just hoping, that somewhere he could hear her. And maybe, just maybe, he was whispering hers too.